Hey, everybody. On this episode of the podcast, we have a special episode on singleness and what that means, especially for the believer, for a Christian. Right, Rosie?
Yeah. And basically it centers around one question is if you're currently Christian, single, waiting to be married, should you kill yourself right now? Is there any hope for you?
Is there any hope? We're selling ropes now, so you can hang yourself.
It's the Jussie Smollett
Smollett package, the all-out war Smollett package.
Yeah, we're gonna send you a red hat.
Yeah.
They come in different colors.
Oh yeah. All right. So that's going to be the episode. So if you're, and this is one you're going to want to share with if you're married, you want to share this with your single friends or your kids or whoever. Anyway, sit back, grab a coffee, and enjoy.
You're listening to the All Out War podcast.
That's right, warrior. You're listening to All Out War. How you doing? Thank you for pushing play and listening to us today. Rosie, what's up, man?
What's up, dude? Not much.
I'm Turner, and I'm in the studio with Rosie once again. I'm experimenting with new intros. I just enjoy it.
Caught me off guard.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, man. Oh, dude. So how was your week, man?
It was good.
Yeah. Mine was too.
Yeah.
We are all sick in my family, man. I am fighting this thing. It's 2 weeks in a row I've been fighting this crazy sinus infection thing. And I'm so stubborn I won't go to the doctor. And my wife is like, just go to the doctor. Just go to the doctor. And I'm like, they're going to try and give me a stupid flu shot, and I'm not going to get that thing. I'm not going to get aborted babies injected into me, man. It ain't happening. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it.
Yeah.
I haven't done the flu shot. I've done it like twice in my entire life. And both times that I did it, I got really sick. And I just said, well, this doesn't work, obviously, so forget it. And everyone else gets it. So I'm like that one guy that doesn't get it, but everyone else does, so I never get sick.
Yeah.
So it's
I always had to get it.
Yeah. It's like people...
Not from my parents, but we had to. Circumstances.
Oh, right. Yeah. No worries. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I'm sick right now, so...
Yeah. I don't go to the doctors because I'm cheap.
Well, that's one way to do it. Wait till it gets really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'll just be stubborn.
Most men are like, no, that's a man thing. That's not even... That's just a dude. Like, I don't want to go to the doctor. It's just annoying to think about.
Yeah.
It's like a pain. It's going to cost
money. You want to hear a story?
Yeah.
My great-grandfather... who I never met. I don't think my dad met him. Maybe he died when he was very young. Stepped on a rusty nail. Got gangrene.
Sorry, I'm not... Whoa.
And never went to the doctor and just died.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah. So it's in my blood. Stubbornness and hatred of doctors.
Wow. That's like a family thing. You know, tetanus shot, man. It could have saved his life.
Yeah.
That would have
He
been...
was just like,
I didn't need that foot anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So the moral of the story is, oh man. Hey, what do you know, man?
Oh, hey, did you know that in the state of California, wait for this.
All right.
You cannot have what?
I was gonna hit a soundbite, but
You're gonna hit it when
I don't know what you're gonna say,
so
I was just getting ready.
Okay. So in California,
Yeah.
it is illegal to name your son, presumably nowadays, you'd name your son Jose with the little, I don't know, the accent on the end. So that it's like Jose, you know, like with the Spanish accent, the little Spanish letter scribble over the top of E.
Yeah.
I only know, like in German, the two dots over U's and O's are called umlauts.
Right, yeah.
So like those things, so you couldn't have a name like Gunther with
two dots
over the U because they call them diacritical marks, which is the little asterisk and something like that.
Yeah.
Cannot have it in a child's name.
Why?
Only the 26 alphabetical characters of the English language are allowed.
Jeez. So I think the people that live in California are just
Smoking that sticky green stuff.
That is true.
they are smoking it.
Yeah.
Oh man! And if I had a kid and the doctor was like, "You can't put that on the name," I would be like,
Why are you gay?
Yeah.
"That's what I would say."
I like that. Yeah. And he would just say like, oh, I don't remember. Stupid doctors in their lab coats, just hanging out, like
Jeez.
making up stuff.
You're gonna need one day. You're gonna need a doctor one
Nope.
day. Yeah, you are.
No, I wear, well, actually, I don't wear steel-toed boots or anything like that. So
Yeah.
let's be honest. I'm not around a lot of physical labor. That's what, I'm not going to step on a nail. No, I'm just kidding.
That's amazing.
I do stuff.
You do stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Good use of the sound bites.
Thank you.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting. You want to know another name thing?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So in 2013, Tennessee judge Luann Ballou ruled that a baby boy named Messiah must change his name to Martin, stating that it's a title that has only been earned by one person, Jesus Christ.
Oh.
It
Now,
was-
see, I can get behind that.
And it was overturned.
Oh, see, of course, because I liked it.
Yeah.
Man, speaking of babies.
Yeah, they. Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
I just cut you off.
That's okay.
Hey, we got 2 minutes of this music, so you can go ahead and
All right.
say what you want.
2009, a 3-year-old named Adolf Hitler Campbell. They wanted a cake made with that, with
Adolf Hitler Campbell.
yeah.
What year?
2009. It was a 3-year-old. It got in the news because
I think I remember that.
yeah, a baker refused to make a cake that said "Happy Birthday, Adolf Hitler," and then the kids
Jeez.
got removed from foster care because all his siblings had names that were inspired by Hitler's
Oh
regime.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
So there you go. There's a couple did you knows
did you know with the babies and the
name.
names.
Anyway, I'll try to get this in before 23 weeks.
23 weeks. We're on our baby update.
Baby's as big as a grapefruit.
Sweet.
Yeah, and hopefully the stupid lab coat doctors made a mistake and it's a boy. Still holding out. Still holding out.
She's our little grapefruit girl.
No.
She
Anyways,
is.
so it says big as a grapefruit, baby skin's getting a little saggy because the fat has to fill in.
Yeah.
It can punch and kick,
Self-defense.
and the placenta transfers oxygen and nutrients to the baby
Amazing.
and removes doo-doo.
Doo-doo.
Waste products.
So you say can kick and punch.
Can kick and punch.
I like that. You never know what you're going to encounter in that womb.
No.
It can be a crazy place sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Look at, we still made it in within
Dude,
the
I know.
within the time.
I know. You got, hold on. I can tell you.
There you go.
We're down 16 seconds left.
Cool.
Let's just enjoy that. It's just beautiful. Wonderful music.
Why are you gay?
That was perfect, dude.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
That's why you don't control the soundboard.
Yes.
I control the soundboard.
Fair enough.
All right.
Anyways.
So this episode, this podcast episode that we are going to do, it's a topic that will speak to a handful of people. No, it'll speak to a majority or a percentage. I would say 50% of the people that listen to this podcast. I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are more your age. I'm the old guy. I'm the Gen X dude, and you're the millennial dude.
yeah.
And a
sadly.
lot, majority of our listeners are millennials, except for like my mom, who's boomer.
My mom.
Yeah, your mom. And but it's a topic that we're gonna.
And my aunt. My mom got mad that I
Hey.
don't give her enough shout outs.
Hey, Aunt Rosie. Wait,
Yeah, not gonna say her name,
Yeah.
but she knows.
Rosie's aunt.
Rosie's aunt.
Yeah, and my mom listens down in her retirement community down. Anyways,
Single people.
single people, singleness. This is about singleness and dealing with singleness in the life, in particular, the life of a believer is what I'm assuming. The angle we're gonna take from this.
Yeah.
But it can be one of the most challenging seasons in a person's life when they get to be in that age of marriage and waiting for that promise of God and that to be fulfilled.
I can relate.
You can relate. You can relate, and it can be the temptation. Like in my mind, is the temptation, and this was what my temptation was when I was in this place was to take matters into your own hands.
Yes.
And then the other temptation is to not blow things out like, oh my gosh, you looked at me, maybe she's the one.
Yeah.
And I already in my head I already have like a house and kids and so anyways, yeah, it's a challenging time for people.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a believer.
So how about I'll get this kicked off.
Okay.
So the way I was thinking that we can do this and keep it is I have found / came up with 6 questions.
Okay.
But there's a bonus one.
Great.
That I'm going to start this off with.
Okay.
That we can just get out of the way. It'll be really easy.
All right.
I think.
Start with the bonus question?
Yeah, start with the bonus question. And I'm going to start by reading something first.
Okay, cool.
If you'll indulge me.
I will indulge you.
Because it'll make it's applicable. I'm going to make it fit.
Yeah.
So I found this article by the Washington Compost written by a female pastor. And I'll just say this. And it is called Sex in the Single Christian, Why Celibacy Isn't the Only Option. So I'm going to...
I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay. So maybe you'll see this question, why it's so easy to get out of the way first. So I'm going to read a little bit about this madness that she's writing about. American Christians sometimes conflate celibacy and chastity too, which is a problem. Chastity is a virtue related to temperance. It is about moderating our indulgences and exercising restraint. We are all called to exercise chastity in a variety of ways, though the details will vary given our individual situations. You already see the problem?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm tracking.
So it says, blah, blah, blah. It's the official teaching of the Catholic Church and some other churches.
Uh-huh.
However, chastity requires restraining oneself from indulging in sexual relationships outside the bounds and bonds of marriage. That is, chastity is for singles means celibacy, no sex.
Mm-hmm.
Accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there may be other norms for chastity.
Uh-oh.
Maybe our marital state isn't the primary norm. I'd argue, this woman, not me, that we can be chaste, faithful, chaste, sorry.
That's okay.
In unmarried sexual relationships if we exercise restraint, if we refrain from having sex that isn't mutually pleasurable and affirming, that doesn't respect the autonomy and sacred worth of ourselves and our partners.
Isn't mutually affirming.
You can have sex and still be chaste and...
I'm trying to, like, in my head, work this one out.
Yes.
Like, after you do the deed...
But this is
like I was not mutually enjoyable.
What are these restraints that she puts it on? Like, I'm just gonna say it. This sound like isn't mutually pleasurable and affirming and doesn't respect the autonomy and sacred worth of ourselves and our partners. She's basically saying, this is what she's saying.
Yeah.
If you can have all kinds of sex.
Yeah.
As long as you don't rape someone. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, from an extent of it, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so but
the mutually pleasurable makes me laugh because, all right, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there.
I know. Let me just keep going a little bit. There's not that much.
Yeah, jeez.
There are those who feel that they are called to seasons of celibacy or even years of celibacy, and if answering that call is life-giving and purposeful, then they should take it up as a spiritual discipline. But no call can be forced on an unwilling person, especially not if they find themselves single only by virtue of circumstance.
Okay, hold on. All right, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, you were rolling your eyes. You
I know.
put your hands over your face. Go ahead.
So, I want you to read a part of that again.
Okay. I'll just that paragraph.
Yeah. Read. Yeah.
There are those who feel that they are called to seasons of celibacy or even years of celibacy. And if answering that call is life-giving and purposeful, then they should take it up as a spiritual discipline. But no call of celibacy is what I'm adding that in.
Yeah.
Can be forced on an unwilling person, especially not if they find themselves single only by virtue of circumstance.
All right. So the first problem I have with it is this whole idea of call.
Yes.
Who called you to that? Right? It would be God.
Yeah.
So God's will is only good if it's pleasurable to you.
Yeah.
So let's think about some individuals in the Bible that were in God's will, but it was absolutely not pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
But it was life-giving in the sense that they were obeying God.
Right.
This is this is just the most carnal logic. This woman is so off base.
It's not just a woman. It's a woman pastor.
Okay.
So you will respect her pronoun of pastor that she placed upon herself.
All right. Anyways,
I'm just kidding.
Anyways, I'll just say this, that her concept and her idea and her logic and even her understanding of the Bible obviously needs to go back to school, because like when we talk about call,
yes,
it comes from God. If God's going to call you to something, it's not like you get the prerogative of saying, well, if it makes me feel good, I'll just obey it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonah is the perfect example of that, right?
Yeah.
God called him. He disobeyed. He went the opposite way. He ended up in the belly of a whale, probably dead.
Yeah.
It's more likely that Jonah died in that whale. A lot of people don't realize that.
And then God still was like, "Nope, you're going back. You're gonna do this."
Yeah, exactly.
And then what did he say? He went there, said 7 words, and everyone converted.
Yeah, begrudgingly, he was like, "I'll give the message." But the whole point was his heart was not into it.
Yeah,
and it wasn't pleasurable for him.
No,
but it was God's will. It was God's call.
Yes,
on his life. So her logic is just twisted there.
Yeah. Well, I want to read. Okay, there's just 2 quick more paragraphs before the kicker at the end.
All right. I need to get another Coke Zero. Hold on.
I'll keep. Go ahead. Plenty of women and men love sex and need it. We need bodily pleasure, remember, and the abundant life for them will involve seeking out relationships of mutual pleasure. Chastity or just sex requires that whether we are married or unmarried, again, our sex lives restrain our egos, restrain our desire for physical pleasure when pursuing it would bring harm to self or other. And she, earlier in the article, she talks about Jesus, but she's going to reference Jesus right here. I offer the example, she talked about how he was celibate.
Yeah, he was single.
Yeah, she said, I offer the example of Jesus not because I think he was likely celibate.
Likely?
There you go. That's not even the whole thing, but rather because his life demonstrates what it might mean to be both different and beloved, chaste but never cut off. Jesus was forever referring to those who have eyes to see, and he saw people in ways that others didn't. He saw them through the eyes of love, whoever they were. He loved them as they were, regardless of what society thought of them. And
there is truth to that.
Yes.
But
not what she's saying.
Right.
We're called to see that way too, to see and nurture the possibilities for life and love that are constantly unfolding all around us. We're called to love. We're called to see ourselves this way, beloved, no matter, or perhaps because of, our refusal to conform to society's expectations about sex, love, and relationships. So she doesn't make any sense either.
I know.
She just said, you can go have sex with anyone as long as you both like it, and that's it.
But at the beginning, it's like you might have an option if it's not mutually like enjoyable.
Yeah.
That you could. It's almost like take the car for the test drive.
Yeah.
If you don't like something about it,
then just become celibate.
Yeah. Then you can just claim the celibate card and it's okay. Yeah. I mean, this is like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah,
this
but it's just, I love how
she
throws this, but refuse to conform to society's expectations about sex, love, and relationships, which she doesn't agree with because she wants you to totally conform to the world.
Right.
And then last sentence, straight, gay, bi, trans, intersex. We are all beloved and do God and ourselves a disservice if we are conformed.
Okay.
So there you go. That was a woman.
Okay.
So that was all of a thing to say.
Wait, what were those? It was like
straight, gay, bi.
Why are you gay?
I am not gay. Don't you ever ask me that again.
No.
It's my eyebrows. Right? I need to get them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're on flick.
They're on fleek. Oh my God.
On fleek. I'm sorry.
I'm old and I even get that reference. Anyways.
Yeah.
So anyways, this was a whole thing to say. So obviously, maybe some Christians that are single out there, because they might read something like this and they'll go, oh, God doesn't want me to be celibate.
He doesn't want me
while I'm single.
Right.
So this is the long way to say, here's the first question. That's a bonus throwaway. should we be celibate and pure while we're single?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh no.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so can I speak to that?
Yeah,
Cool.
please.
So a lot of people forget that there is a spiritual side to
Yep.
many, many aspects of life. And one of those in particular is this whole concept of sex. Paul tells us that the two become one flesh, and that from the spirit we become one in spirit. And so you join spiritually with that individual that you have sex with. And our society and our culture and the world at large does not view any of these things with a spiritual mindset. In fact, the Bible tells us that these things are spiritually discerned, and they can only be discerned by someone who's born again.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be born of the Spirit in order to discern the things of the Spirit. And when we forget as because there's a carnal, so this is what's so crazy. It's a fleshly appetite, right? It's a desire that's driven by the flesh, my hormones, my desires, my passions, right? But there's a spiritual result that occurs from it.
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful, but it's very, very hidden, and it's not easy to pick up on. So when you, as a believer in particular, we should always be taking that spiritual side of things and putting that as a priority in our decisions. So when you're a believer and you're single and you're trusting in Jesus, the reason he wants you to remain pure and celibate is because there's a spiritual blessing that comes in the covenant of a marriage.
Yeah.
That's safe. It's defined by God and it's blessed by God, and then the two that become one can actually multiply.
Yeah.
So
cool. So I just figured get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Because that's and I'll also give you that warm you up a little bit. The other questions are not as easy as that one.
all right. Well, I'll do the best I can. It's been a long time since I've been single.
Yeah.
Like 23 years. So
nice. Congrats. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I got a phrase for you. All the single people want to be married. All the married people want to be single. That's a joke that has truth to it.
Yeah. I've heard it from my married friends. Okay. Why does God allow me to be single for so long? Oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness. And so why does God allow me to be single for so long? And what is God's reasoning, or why is he letting me remain single? So that's a question.
Yeah. So it's a hard question to answer because it's got to be an answer that's for each individual. So there's no blanket like, well, this is why you're single.
Right.
Like, so there's various reasons why that could be happening though. One of those things could be that you are not prepared. Like I think of the individual, somebody that is single who wants to be married, but they seem to be waiting a long time. It could be that God is working in their life and they're not at a place that they're ready, either emotionally, or just even spiritually, to serve and to lay down their life and to become a person that would be, good in marriage. So one could be you're just plain not ready.
Yeah.
Another reason could be that that there could be some issue in your life of rebellion where you're just not in God's will, where you're deliberately moving away and out of God's will for your life. And so it's making it difficult for God to bring that person to you. And I've met people that have been, quote unquote prodigals, and they get married in that state, and they really end up marrying a person that's probably not the best person for them, but they're married. And once they're married, now it is who God wants them to be with.
Right.
And so they have to honor that. And it can create a world of issues within the marriage after that. So it could be you're not ready. It could be you're in sin. And the other could be the person that God has for you isn't ready, that he's working in their life as well, and that it's a timing issue, plain and simple. So, and I can offer up some, answers to, like, if you find yourself in that spot.
Yeah.
So some advice that was given to me. This was really good. About a year before I met my wife, the woman I'm married to now, my wife. About a year before I met her, I was about 23, 24 years old, and my pastor at that time was just encouraging me to be patient and wait. And I didn't have a girlfriend or anything, so I wasn't struggling with like being pure, like
Yeah.
I wasn't stumbling, but he said, here's the thing, Turner, work on yourself, like make yourself the best possible person you can be, so that when God brings that woman to your life, you're ready, you're available, and you're prepared.
I heard it put a really good way. It's always, I've heard this said, and maybe you agree or not, is be a person that you would want to marry.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Right.
You know,
No, that's great
something
advice.
like if you wouldn't want to marry, if you wouldn't want to be with, it takes you'd have to take a hard look at yourself and say,
Yeah.
would I want to marry someone with the traits that I currently have?
Yeah. The other side of it too is that, you trust the Lord,
Mhm.
and God's sovereign over your life. And so accepting your place in life right now is really the idea of just being content
Yeah.
where you are. And so a lot of times when a single person is in that waiting time, they just obsess with when is that going to happen? Who's it going to be with? Where is the person? And they're missing great opportunities in this season to serve the Lord in a really great way.
Mhm.
I've said this before, but because of the fact that I'm married and have 3 children, I'm limited in my availability for some of the things that God might want to do. It doesn't mean that he can't use me, but it does limit me in my availability. I'll give you the perfect example of that. You and I have a really good friend named Ed, and Ed is single. He's probably 30 now, and Ed just took off. He works with a high risk missions group.
Yeah.
And he's over in someplace
A dangerous country right now.
Yeah, it could be the Sandbox, it could be somewhere else.
Africa.
But, but he's basically working alongside some pretty incredible things, and he's experiencing some pretty incredible things. I could technically do that.
Yeah.
Take off and go there, be there with them, but it would really harm my family. And so because he's not married, because he doesn't have children, and because he's mobile, he can go and be in a place like that and do things that other people can't. Now, God can call my family into something like that if he wanted to, and that would be pretty amazing. I don't know if he would. But so my point is that God's will for you right now is to be where you are. So instead of worrying about the next thing, take what you have in front of you right now and embrace that with contentment and joy that God is actually sovereign over your life in this moment, and that he loves you. And he's,
I just thought of this, is that, the you said it very succinctly. I don't think on here, but maybe you did. The economy of God, how it works so weirdly. Like the more you give, the more you might be blessed.
Mhm.
And basically this whole idea of, if you're a good steward of, and Jesus talks about this in parable all the time. If you're a good steward with what God gives you, if you're a good steward of it, he will say like, oh, this guy's really, if you're at work and you're a manager and like you can manage the hell out of, 10 people, you can handle it.
Yeah.
And you keep doing really well. Your boss might go, oh, dude, you're doing great with this team. How about we'll give you, a division where you can train God, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you're a good steward of what God gives you currently, he'll bless you with more.
Yeah. Faithful with little, faithful with much.
Yeah. So I was thinking, that kind of relates to, in the season of thing, you really should, if you change that mindset. I mean, this is something I've been going through as well. Like, I guess not to get super personal, but, to really see, I'm trying to segue to the next question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But, take advantage of where I'm at and, be blessed and do with what I have, because I'm not going to have a lot more time if I get married or whatever.
That's right.
So be blessed and do good deeds with what I have now.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I have more disposable income, am I giving more than I should be. Well, I'm probably not giving more than I should be, but I don't think that's a problem with too many Americans.
No, yeah.
But am I doing well with what I currently have?
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah, that's a great one.
All right, next one. This is you kind of touched on it. I thought you were going to go here. Well, it might be a little controversial, but if marriage is a gift from God and it's sanctioned by God, and it's a gift that God gives us, why are non-Christians around? This is from the perspective of a Christian person. Why are non-Christians around me getting married? Is God blessing them instead of me? Am I missing out on blessing? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. So,
I told you they're a little tricky.
no, it's not tricky. It's just making me laugh because I'm thinking like they're complex.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to this.
Thank you. I thought
Yeah.
I was put some thought into it.
So the first thing I would say is in our lives, it is a very dangerous thing to compare yourself with someone else. Yeah. And that's a trap that people will oftentimes do. And it goes back to a little bit to God's will. Just because an unbeliever is getting married, just because an unbeliever is finding that their soulmate or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't mean that that God's blessing them and not blessing you. And that's important to remember, because if God is a God of love and God has chosen this season for whoever's listening to this that is in that season, then it's important for you as that person to understand that he's sovereign over your life and that he knows what's best for you. He's a good father. When Jesus taught on the parables of prayer in Matthew chapter 7, and he said that he basically related this whole concept of God being our Father, and he said to the disciples in this parable, he said, "If any of you asks for bread, would he give you a stone? Or if any of you ask for a fish, would he give you a snake?" And he says, "You who are wicked are good fathers. How much more is your Father in heaven?" And, the whole idea of Jesus saying that was basically like, look to God as your Father who takes care of you and loves you and knows what's best for you. So comparing yourself to even a believer, another believer, I know sometimes I look at and this will happen with outside of marriage. This can happen with jobs.
Yeah.
It can happen with all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
We start to compare ourselves. Well, why didn't I get that job? Maybe you and another believer were both applying for a job, and you clearly were more qualified, right? If you don't believe God's sovereign over your life, wait till you're in a situation like that. God will really show you that He's sovereign over your life, And so then it boils down to trust. Do I trust God? Do I trust His love for me? Do I trust that He has all things good for me in mind? I did want to read one verse that Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 7. He has a whole basically the majority of chapter 7 of 1 Corinthians is about marriage. But he has this great verse in verse 8. He says, "Now to the unmarried and to the widows," he says, I say, "it is good for them to stay unmarried, as I am." So Paul was saying as he was unmarried at that moment. "But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion." And he goes in there, he talks a little bit more about, leading up to that verse, he's talking about how the wife's body doesn't belong to her, but it belongs to her husband. The husband's body is not his own, it belongs to his wife. And he's kind of illustrating sort of this outline of the sacrifice and that you're giving yourself over in marriage. But what's interesting, he says, "To the rest, I say this." He says, "If any brother," oh wait, I'm sorry, that was the wrong verse. He says, that was talking about divorce and marriage. He says, "Nevertheless," this is verse 17, "each one of you should remain in the place that the Lord has assigned to him and to which God has called him." And so he's, on the topic of marriage, remarriage, being single and all that, he's like, remain where you are right now and just serve God where you are. And I think that's just a great reminder.
Yeah. So I didn't have this written down.
Okay.
Because it might be kind of depressing, but you brought it up. And Paul does talk about it. Not even in there. There's another verse I'm thinking of, a section. Maybe it is in there and I'm just stupid. But are some Christians called to be single?
Yes.
Their whole life?
Yes.
Okay.
There are people that are called to be celibate, yeah.
Okay. And I was going to say,
and
so, go ahead.
and it's a calling. So here's the thing to remember. It's a call. So no matter what God calls you to, so say God calls you to be a missionary, say God calls you to be a pastor, say God calls you to be an IT, guy, so whatever, whatever God calls you to, he equips you for.
Mhm.
So his grace is sufficient for whatever he calls you to. So if he's called you to be celibate or single, he's going to give you what you need to walk through that will that he has for your life,
Right. So this is like one of the things that, I was talking to someone before this about this topic, and we were talking about how Paul remained single for, at least ever since he got converted, right? Did he
Well,
didn't get...
So there's a lot of different theories out there.
Okay.
Some say that his wife left him when he became a believer.
Right.
And he talks about that. He says, look, when you, he says, if your unbelieving spouse wants to leave you, then they're free to leave you. But you're not free to leave them just because you married an unbeliever or you became saved and they're not a believer. You have, and it even says that like he talks about a husband and a wife, and he says the wife's faithfulness and her gentleness and her reverence for the Lord will actually win her husband over. But she's not free to leave.
Right.
Now, if he can't handle the fact that she's saved and he wants a divorce, he can do that, or vice versa. If she can't handle the fact that he's saved and she wants a divorce, she's free to leave. And once they leave, then you're free. You're basically set free from that covenant, and you're free to find a believing spouse if you want, if that's God's will.
So here, I'm going to throw this other dimension into it, that because I thought of a couple of things talking about that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, so this is just in summary, what I think you're saying is, so if someone's, because I've thought this, and I've talked to other guys that are single.
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe I'm just called to be single for the rest of my life and it'll never come. And someone just told me, maybe it was you, I heard it somewhere, where they're like, do you want to get married? I'm like, well, yeah, I want to get married. You're not called to be single then.
Right. Yeah.
Someone that is called to be single. So I want to reassure those people that just because there are people out there,
Yeah.
if you're even worried about getting married, it's not you. Like,
Yeah.
or
I would hedge that, but yes,
Okay.
Typically the desire. So I always love this. God gives you the desires of your heart.
right.
And that's sort of a double entendre. Is that the right word? Is that the right?
No,
No,
I don't think so.
Because what it
Well,
means is that not only does he deposit or give you the desires within your heart, but he also is the one who's fulfills them.
Right.
So he gives you the desires of your heart. In other words, he places them in, and then he fulfills them for
Right.
you. And so if someone has a great desire to be married, and it's not like an obsessive thing, it's not a comparison thing,
Yeah.
it's not an identity thing. It's just generally like, man, I've always wanted to be married since I was a little kid. Like it's just been something in me. The likelihood is that is God's will for their life, and he's put that desire in them. I mean, the first commandment he gave to Adam and Eve was to be fruitful and multiply,
Yeah.
right? There is great purpose in marriage, outside of the fact that it's an illustration between the relationship between Jesus and the church, as Romans tells us, you
Yeah.
know. But
I guess more so what I meant is to kind of relieve anyone that,
Yeah.
because that question is, God won't, if I really want to be married and I'm patiently waiting,
yeah,
God's not going to be like, tricked you. I know you wanted this your whole life, but you're going to die alone, like something like that. He's not going to do that.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And if your heart is not in line with that,
Yeah.
but you want his will, he will change that
Right,
in
right.
you. You'll be able to embrace that if that is the truth, for your life, if you're called to be celibate. Less people are called to be celibate
Right.
than married, though. I do know that. And there's a purpose behind that as well.
Well, and so this is what I was going to get back to. You were talking about how Paul said, if you become a Christian, you can't leave your spouse. And, what did you say? That you being faithful and loving to your spouse who may
win
not
them over. Yeah.
will win them over. And I was thinking that's the same way, because I was thinking, who might be called to be celibate. I know some stories I've read about particular Christians who who maybe struggle with same-sex attraction.
Yeah.
I've read some stories where they're really powerful, of guys that were like, look, I was gay.
Yeah.
I identified as gay. I practiced homosexuality, and that they practiced that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, then I got saved, and some of them find spouses and stuff of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
But I've read stories where guys were like, it's just not there for me. And so I'm going to be celibate for the rest of my life until maybe the desire changes. So basically they're not going to act out on the impulses.
Yeah.
And stories I've read are like, they're like, I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
And so the other thing is maybe someone that comes out that's married already. So I'm just trying to think of, to cover all bases, is like, if someone perhaps is listening and they're married, and I'll use that term. Well, I guess now it's legally the term. If you're gay married,
right,
and you get saved, and you all of a sudden you feel this conviction to no longer, you're convicted of living a sinful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and the other partner maybe doesn't
Right.
want to do, you can leave them.
Yeah. So,
so I know this is kind of not singleness, but
okay, let me go back. So another side of celibacy is, you're right, that I was going to bring that up, and I'm glad you brought it up, is that I've heard many stories of people who really want to honor the Lord and his word with their life, but yet they still have this same-sex attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way for them to honor God is to just avoid acting out on relationships, even relationships that could become romantic or whatever.
Yeah.
They just literally cut all of that off, and they have platonic relationships, and they avoid any of that, and they do that for their own good, because they're trying to honor the Lord with their body and with their actions and all of that. And it's just such an amazing testimony of that individual, because that individual is just really, it shows you their commitment and love for Jesus.
Yeah.
Which I just really can't say enough about that type, someone in that situation, how much I just respect that.
Yeah.
And God's grace is really sufficient, right? So he gives you strength to walk through that. And then there's the people so then a situation that you're talking about is like, maybe someone who was in that lifestyle, in the alternative lifestyle, the homosexual lifestyle, and then they meet Jesus, and then they realize it isn't his will for their life, and so they want to move away from that, but they're pretty deep in, maybe even married to an individual. So this is a situation that I actually encountered with someone, and I'm not going to get into details of names, but essentially this individual, he asked me, hey, I gave my life to Jesus, and I'm following God now, and I want all of my life to really reflect that. And when that happened, my desires were taken away from me for my spouse. I'm married. And incidentally, when he told me that, he came up to me, he started, hey, I'm married, and I accepted Jesus. I was like, sweet, great. And then he's like, but my spouse is a man who's transitioning into a woman, and doesn't accept Jesus, and I'm lost all my desire for that relationship. So in other words, when he got saved, God delivered him from that desire, and there's no other way to say it. And I know people, therapy, and like whatever they want to, all this stuff. Look, this was just a miraculous work of God. It really was. So the question is, what do I do? I'm married. We bought a house, and I want to honor Jesus now. And I'm not into this relationship. It's causing a lot of problems, and I couldn't tell him right away. I had to wait, and I had to get some counsel and find out what would be best. And in that moment, when I came back, I just said to him, hey, you're actually free to leave.
Yeah.
Now, if it were a other way around, or it was a heterosexual relationship, I would say to that spouse, no, you need to stay. You're not free to leave. But this situation, it's not honored by God. It's not outlined in Scripture as an honorable covenant that God would, it's not even his will. So you can leave. But I did put this on him. I said, give him everything. Give him the house. give him all the savings. I said, make it so that he walks away with all the bounty, if you will, and you take the hit, and let God provide for you. Let God really show himself mighty in your life as you honor him. And it was a really hard road. It was a really hard road. It wasn't easy. But that's how God untangles some of this stuff when a person gets saved, you know. So he's going to have to stay celibate, you know, if the desire, and it's not to say the desires won't come back.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just they're basically they're just passions that have been changed now from a person to God, and then maybe they'll turn back towards another person at some point, and then that's when the Christianity has to be more faith walk, because the passion isn't there necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, so
that was a good tangent, but I think we.
Sorry.
No. I brought it up, but I was going to say I think that
it's actually one of my favorite stories that I've ever had in ministry.
Yeah.
That happened. I just still can't believe that conversation I had, and I witnessed a miracle.
Yeah, and
cool.
I mean, and maybe I'll just. Right. I was just thinking like that, just in that way of giving him everything.
Yeah.
You never know if like that action of like the spouse, whatever it is, he, she, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
Receiving all that stuff is like, wow, this guy like still cares. You know, like he's not like you calling him out in sin. He's not. It's not like a hateful divorce thing. Like you're gonna burn in hell. You know, all this stuff. It's like blessing, and you never. I mean, I'm speaking generalities because I don't know the situation, but that might be something that all of a sudden that person gets convicted, and they're like, "Yeah, I need to." You know, so
and the feelings are real. I mean, like for that person, like in that relationship, they're genuine love feelings. They're affections, they're attractions, and all of that. They're not like they're just. Like this is a problem. Like it's not like someone that's in that situation those aren't real feelings.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, but yeah, it's good. All right. So how about another one?
Okay.
Does God love? No, I said, does God love them more because they're married and I'm not? No, we can skip over that one.
Well, I have a great verse too. Paul says in this whole 1 Corinthians 7, he gets towards the end of his discourse about all, and he says, those who marry will face many troubles in this life, and I want to spare you of this. So, you know, he was basically saying, look, man, when you get married, like your attentions are pulled in many different directions.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just want to spare you of all the troubles that marriage, and it does bring troubles, man. I always joke around when I do premarital with couples. I'm like, you're two sinners that are getting married, and you're going to make little sinners eventually. But it's two sinners becoming one. And so all of the things that are hidden in the engagement process will be exposed in the marriage process. And so all the weaknesses, all the things, they all just, you can't hide them. Yeah. When you're living with somebody that in that proximity, you can't hide them.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of troubles that come with marriage. You know, the first year of marriage is really hard for a lot of people, a lot of couples, because it's that adjustment.
I believe it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So God does not love them more because he gives them marriage, right?
Right.
Okay. What should I do while I'm single? We already kind of went over that.
Party it up, Date all the time. Get on Tinder. Do whatever you got to do. No.
I was going to say, send pictures to all my married friends where I'm like, look, I'm just going down here because I don't have a wife and kids, yo.
Just spending money.
I'm just buying this. You have to ask your wife. You have to save up for that. That sucks.
Yeah. No, dude. There's some. You should do that. Be kind of.
I do.
And then he's gonna troll you back. He's gonna be like, "Hey, look, I'm going to bed with my wife. Like we're just like."
They do that.
Yeah, it's turnabout's fair play.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. What I think that question, what should you do, is probably the question that you should be asking God more and more of if you're in that place of waiting for your spouse. Just ask God, what do you want me to do today? What do you want to do with me today? What is it?
How can I serve you today?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just we should all be asking that regardless, but in that particular stage of life, in that place of life, that's a great prayer.
Yeah.
You know, and enjoy and serve others. I mean, marriage is about sacrifice and dying to yourself. So just serve others. Find ways to bless people and serve others. And who knows?
Get some training, right?
Yeah, that's right. Who knows? You might meet your spouse through that.
Yeah.
You know? So I think those are pretty easy.
Cool. Yeah. How about this?
Okay.
Pretty basic. What should I look for in a potential spouse?
They got to
As
be
a Christian, you
yeah.
know, like as a,
So people hate when I say this,
Yeah.
but I believe this firmly. You gotta find someone you're attracted to first and foremost. Like people that downplay, like I hear Christians like, oh, like their appearance does not matter. No, it does matter. It does matter. And look, it's okay. It's okay. God made us the way He made us. Like we're attracted to people the way we're attracted to
certain
them.
things.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's got to be someone you're attracted to. If you're trying to force it, you're just it's already wrong. So
So you're saying God, well, here's a different side.
yeah.
All right, got a spouse.
Yeah.
Maybe, or not a spouse.
got a spouse.
Not already a spouse. I've got someone potential in mind.
Okay.
Dating. Maybe I'm dating someone
Yeah.
not super physically attracted to.
Okay.
Like not averse. Obviously, you wouldn't be dating someone if you're like, get away from me.
Right.
But they have characteristics that you might be looking for
Yeah.
that maybe you can go into of,
Well-
maybe some practical things. But here's the ultimate question. Do I go after these attributes that might be like exactly what I want at the expense of attraction? Because I mean, this is kind of a
Right.
basic thing.
No, I hear you
But
saying.
I think I know what the answer, what you're going to say, but I think,
No, you don't. You don't know what I'm going to say.
okay, go ahead.
Right. Could you read my mind there?
All right.
The Bible tells us that beauty is fleeting.
Yes.
So everybody's got their season of like
Yeah.
where they're at like their peak, right? And then it's downhill from there. So when
Well, not for guys.
yeah, my wife jokes. She's like, "You get better looking the older you get," and I'm like, "Thank you," and so do you. That's the
Yeah.
answer back. So and she does. She's beautiful. But what I would say is, so I think what you need to do in your mind and in your heart, you have to work out some of these things that are non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be clear to you that these are the things that I will not bend on. And so obviously you prioritize them. And so if you find that there's an initial attraction to somebody, it may not be like, oh my gosh, like, I was like knocked out of my shoes when I saw her or him or whatever, it might just be like, man, they're hot, So then that's the first thing. Okay. There's an attraction. And trust me, when you get to know someone and their character is the things that are on your list, they get more attractive.
Right.
So that's a good thing. But what I would say is, so if they pass the initial attraction test, and so then you're like, okay, I'm going to find out who this person is. Then in your mind, you want to have a list of things that you're not going to bend on. You're not going to change on. And the first one obviously is it's a mandate from Scripture, is that you should not be unequally yoked. So are they a believer? And then if they confess Christ, then that's not merely enough. Where are they? Are they immature? Are they a disciple of Christ? Are they someone who's exploring Christ but calling themselves a Christ? Do they think that they're a Christian and they're not a Christian? You know what I mean? Like, where are they in the relationship with Christ? I think I just said, are they calling themselves Christ?
Yeah. Well, if they're calling themselves Christ, you might that's a good sign. No.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
No, but so you want to assess where they are in Christ, in their relationship with Jesus and, their spiritual maturity, because their spiritual maturity is going to affect other areas of their life.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I would look at too, and this is important, is do you have the same values in terms of some of the things, not necessarily just biblically, but in life?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the same values on how you spend money? Do you have the same values in terms of like, what do you believe? Like, are you going to vote for Trump or are you going to vote for, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that is important, but like, are you pro-life? Are you, are some of these things that really matter to you, are they the same? And it's okay to ask. I mean, so I always say that the dating phase is the time that you're actually smoking out all the stuff that you need to smoke out and find out what you need to find out. Like that's the investigative time.
Yeah.
And the problem is in the world, the dating is leading to sex. It's like third date, have sex. Like that's the rule or whatever. And the problem is when you start to get engaged, physically with someone, you lose the ability to discern these other things, and they become secondary, and they're really much more important. If you take a marriage, even my marriage, and it's a healthy marriage, in the sex life of that marriage, over the course of the life of that marriage, how much time do you think that couple spends actually having sex over the course of like a 30 or 40-year marriage? It's not going to be a choice, even if they're having it like twice a week, 3 times a week or whatever. Now, in every guy's mind, they think they're gonna have it every night. That's like in their mind before they get married. Reality hits, and that's not how it's gonna be. I mean, I'll just be the majority, unless you have an amazing. Anyways, all right. Some women are very accommodating, but it only goes so far. And but I would say this, that when you engage the physical side of the dating part, as it's inappropriate, you lose the ability to discern the things that need to be discerned about that person, and it clouds your mind, it clouds your ability, and it really moves it on the fast track to a direction that it may not need to go, that it should not go, So I say figure out your values, your priorities, obviously Christ first, and then where are they in Christ, and then you start to work down a list in there of just values that they would hold. Where are they with their family? Do they have a good relationship with their parents and their siblings? Where are they with their money? How do they spend their money? Are they massively in debt, or are they pretty good steward with their money? Because you're gonna possibly marry that,
Yeah.
and have to deal with it. And where are they with other relationships? Do they have good friends around them? These are things like healthy. You're looking for healthy stuff.
How do they treat wait staff?
Yeah, that's actually a big sign.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. When the waiter comes and the waitress. Yeah. So
Cool. Yeah.
I take them. I always recommend dudes take their girl to Starbucks and see what kind of drink they order. That tells you a lot. If it's like a 9 ingredient list on it, you might want to start popping the hood on that thing and seeing what's going on in there.
Why, they're crazy?
No, well, I'm just, hey, the drink tells a lot. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's not always true. Possibly.
You got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
If she gets a black coffee, put a ring on her finger. No, I'm just kidding.
But really.
For real. Yeah.
Okay.
If she loves Jesus and black coffee, you're down.
Done.
Dude. You've got it. Yeah.
All right. This is the last one I have.
Okay.
How do I know when I've met the one?
I have no idea. You will know when you know. I'm just gonna be vague about it. You will know when you know. For me, so I'll speak from experience. For me, I couldn't think of living a day without her. I couldn't think of a future that didn't have my wife in it. I just couldn't. And that was something that I had never experienced before. Like, I wasn't one of those obsessive dudes where calling and texting his girl all the time.
They didn't have texting back then.
They really did. They really didn't. Stop it, dude.
Yeah. Writing carrier pigeons, sending carrier pigeons.
I'm not that old. For real, my wife had a cell phone when we were dating.
Oh.
And I had one for my work, and mine was this old Nextel. It was and you could use a walkie-talkie on it, but it was literally the size of a payphone. We used to joke it was like a payphone. It was huge. It weighed like 6 pounds. I'm not kidding. It was a massive. The battery would last like 4 days. It was so great. But and she had this Sprint really cool little phone, flip phone, and it was pretty nice.
That's cool, man.
Pretty much indestructible.
Yeah,
but
they made them to last back then.
They did. So yeah, those are the things that I would say. You're gonna know in your heart. You're going to know that this is the person. And I would say this too: if you start to have a sense that this might not be the person, slow down. Mm-hmm. Really yield yourself to those things. You really want to get it right. In fact, I would say that the second most important decision a person makes in their life is the person they marry, because of what it leads to.
Yeah.
I mean, and the most important decision, obviously, is to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. To really surrender by faith to Him, and that's the most important decision any person can make. But then you think about marriage as a lifelong commitment. That's going to be a pretty important decision.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people, fools rush in. I see that a lot, and it's sad. I've only been, I've figured it out. I have 2 weddings next week that I have to do, and I did 1, 2, 3 weeks ago, and I think I figured it out after 5 years of doing young adult ministry. I've done about 23 weddings, that's about 5 a year, right?
Yeah.
So out of those, I've had 3 that went through premarital with me that did not go to the altar. And I always tell that couple, I would rather you cry for a night than cry for a lifetime. I'd rather there be weeping for a night because your heart's broken and it didn't go where you thought it was going to go, than to jump into that marriage and have a lifetime of weeping because of regret from a decision that you knew you shouldn't have made. So I would say, slow down, take your time. And, I feel like a hypocrite because I met my wife, and I met and were married in a year. And I would say,
well, back in the 20s, everyone kind of moved fast, and there's lower life expectancy. So a year was actually like 7 years, right?
You need to respect your elders. I'm dropping wisdom on you, and you need to respect this. But I have, I've known it really depends on the couple too.
Yeah.
I was 25. I was living on my own. I was not just some 19, 20-year-old. Very, life experience wasn't there. I mean, anybody that gets married at 19 years old is insane. I'm just telling you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm looking over at our audience because I had the honor of, they were very young, but they were ready. And that's getting good counsel too. Your parents are huge. If your parents are believers, your parents are huge. You got to listen to them. They love you.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know a buddy of mine who was engaged. It broke up for whatever reason. I always think of this guy. He's really, really, really good guy. And I think he got married when he was 33. Stayed single.
Wow.
After that.
Just like Jesus.
Yeah. And he met, and he was telling me, I don't think he'd ever listen to this, so he wouldn't get mad at me, and no one would even know who he is. So he wouldn't. It was an incredible story. Every New Year's, he said he would, journal, think about, spend the whole New Year's Eve in prayer.
Wow.
And just going over what happened the past year, and kind of like praying and seeing, hey God, I think I'm ready for this. Help me out with this year.
Yeah.
And trying to listen to what God said. And so he had been doing this, and he said, I think I'm ready, and I'm in a place. And he was in a place, like he had this dude stud,
right.
And life was super, super, super successful. Just great dude.
Good.
Like he was ready. And so he said he was praying. He was like, God, I'd like to meet my spouse this year. I think I'm ready. I think I'm in a position. And he said, he heard God basically say, don't pray for that. He was like, what? Kind of confused. And he's like, okay, I want to get married this year. And then it was like, he just got all this peace. And like, so not only he went from meeting my spouse to begin to pray.
Yeah.
And he met, his wife, his then wife. They got married. He met her, and they got married like very quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly, where I was like, I talked, we hung out in between then, and he was like, blah, 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 blah. I got invited to the wedding. I couldn't go. And we were hanging out, and he's just like, I knew exactly. He's just telling me this crazy story. He's like, if this would have happened to anyone else, like, I wouldn't have believed it. It was so crazy. But it was just, and it's been really good. Like, it's super awesome marriage. But it was just an outlier. It's just a funny story but at the same time, it really gave me a lot of hope, maybe some hope that was portrayed to me that passed along to someone else, is that God can do stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
and make it like what you said, that you have a lasting, good marriage. That it could, I mean, they met and got married in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, not crazy short. It wasn't like a week or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's shorter than probably, nowadays. And
Right.
so I guess there's some hope that, and he was, like I said, older, had everything else going on in life
Yeah.
but that.
There's
And,
there's a whole lot of cynicism on marriage right now too, especially for millennial generation, the
Yeah.
younger generation, because they've just seen so much divorce and so much heartache, and there's also the whole aspect of living together is just a normal thing now.
Yeah.
And they don't really and they don't understand what's happening with that. That'd be a whole nother thing. Soul tie, talking about soul ties.
Right. Yeah.
That's that's the spiritual component. Every time that you lay with someone, have sex with someone, a piece of you is connected to them and a piece of them is connected to you. And then if you don't live in covenant, then what happens is if you break up and move on, that part of you goes with them and that part of them stays with you. And it can cause damage to your ability to really connect on a deep, intimate level later on in life, especially if you do get married and you've had many partners.
Yeah. I was going to say, I saw this statistic, maybe to scare you, but I'll throw it out there.
Yeah.
It was like, the only one I saw, it just happened. I'm not a misogynist, so I'm just going to say this up front, but there's one that always gets shared that I saw. I don't know if they've actually done it the opposite way, but it said the number of divorces based on the number of partners a woman has had.
Mm.
And it's like 0. It's like they're not going to get married. Like they're not going to get divorced.
Okay.
It's like almost 100.
So the first time they've ever had sex is with their husband.
Right.
Okay.
Like never, like it's so astronomical, it's like 98% will not get divorced.
Yeah.
And then it goes for like 1 to 3 partners and it goes down to like 70. And then it's like 3 to 5, 3 to 6, like
Yeah.
it's still small,
Yeah.
for, I guess if you think that's a small number, it goes to like 50.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like 10 plus. Like you're never going to stay together. Statistics are not there.
Yeah.
That
Well, that's just based off sheer numbers,
Right.
But the cool thing about that is that God can, he can
Yeah.
like he can
now
forgive.
you're making me feel bad.
No, but that's a good. I mean, like obviously, if you're dating someone and you find out they've had like 20, sexual partners, you're gonna want to dig a little deeper in there. Well, when did you exactly accept Jesus? What happened? Like you want to find. It's okay to ask these questions. I mean, look, when you go to buy a house and you go to closing, it's like a stack of. It looks like a phone book of papers you have to sign and read and all this stuff, and that's just to buy a house. Why aren't we digging that deep and getting all like that thorough with the person we're going to spend the rest of our life with and possibly have offspring and our name is going to be connected to? We should be really, it's okay to ask. And, if the person's, you're worth it. Like this is the other thing is you're worth it.
Yeah.
So you need to be willing to ask, and they're worth it.
Yeah.
If you've had multiple partners and, and if you've had multiple partners and you're in the Lord, or even if you've been there's Christians that have lots of sexual partners all the time. You can find forgiveness. It's okay. Just find forgiveness in the Lord and move forward.
Stop doing it.
Yeah.
You have to kind of stop doing it.
Yeah. And ask the Lord to set you free. There is some, I don't know the right word, maybe deliverance that can happen to kind of set you free from all these soul ties or whatever, and the Lord can break those. But yeah, so
Cool.
So if you're single out there and you're listening to this right now, just hang in there. It's not the end of the world. You're actually in a really good spot, and the Lord loves you, and it's His will, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah. You should buy lots of guns.
And buy guns and go to the gym and do all that fun stuff that everyone wants to do that can't.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
So
that's all I got. I can't think of
that's
anything
all
else.
you got. I don't really have anything else that I can add. I think the dating thing is probably, the most important.
Well, here's one.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is, I don't want to say should, but Tinder,
Mm-hmm.
apps like that. What should you should.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with like the dating apps like Tinder, Facebook app, Facebook dating app that's out now. I don't have. There's a couple that are more geared towards hookup.
Like Grinder.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't know, but yeah, I'll take your word.
Hey, I'm not speaking from experience. I just was.
No, I think I don't have a problem with they're it's, we live in a very digital world.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon, to meet people. In fact, this is ironically one of the greatest sources of divorce right now is Facebook.
Yeah.
Because spouses are finding their old high school. No, for real.
Yeah,
this is a real
I
problem.
believe it.
They're finding their old high school, or they meet someone randomly, and they begin a relationship. It's totally secret online that their spouse doesn't know about, and then they can just foster into infidelity. But since we live in a digital world, I'm not opposed to Tinder or. I don't even know what other ones are. I mean,
I don't either.
FarmersOnly.com.
Farmers Only, yeah.
But and Christian Mingle.
Well,
right?
I will say this. That's a ripoff. Don't use those.
Christian Mingle.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know them, so but
I'm just.
it's like
saying,
I'm trying to think like what would I tell one of my kids, right? If
Yeah.
they were in that situation. Now I would say put yourself in places too where you can meet real people in real life situations. So join, like go to a gym and join like the Pilates class or whatever, and get in with some people. If you don't have a church, get into a church, find a small group, if they have a singles group, get in there. I mean, sometimes they're awkward and weird, and trust me, I know all the horror stories, but put yourself in a place where you can meet people. Like going to the bar to meet a spouse is probably not ideal. People, I just being honest. And I know people resort to that sometimes, and I've heard success stories. Oh, I found one, and they're beautiful family and all that. But typically that's not the place where you're going to find the type of person that you're going to want to spend the rest of your life with. So I would say use all of the available things and just be smart, like Tinder, and you got to be smart about it, because you can portray yourself online any way you want. So, it comes with its own hazards, but it also comes with opportunities that you're not going to find that weren't available to me. I literally had to pray my wife, and I was going to this little tiny church in a little podunk town, and I just had to pray God to bring, because in my church, I was like the only single person. It was that small. It was a church plant. It was so tiny. And I was like the only single person. Everybody felt bad for me. I mean, I think everybody was praying for me. God, please send Turner his wife.
He's bugging us. It's depressing to see him every Sunday walking alone.
Wow. It's not like I was like a pariah or something.
I'm
Like,
just kidding.
the leper, get him out of
Get
the
him out
camp.
of here. Pray.
Oh my gosh. You feel like it sometimes, but you're not. Yeah. But anyways. All right. Any other questions?
No, man, I think that's good.
That was good. I enjoyed that. That was a good departure from all of our political and conspiracy stuff with secret societies. Oh yeah, do not try and find a spouse at the Masonic Lodge. That probably is not ideal, by the way. It goes without saying.
Yeah.
You find some.
Well, what if? Okay.
What if?
What if I'm going to the Masonic Lodge?
Right.
Me personally,
Yeah.
Rosie,
Okay.
to go learn about them, so I can learn how and I meet a woman
Okay.
who is also there for the same thing.
Oh, for the same thing?
Yeah.
She's a truther?
She's a truther.
That's the Lord. Marry her. Marry-
Immediately.
Yes. That's the Lord. I would say do it.
Be like, what do you know about the Trilateral Commission? And
There
she
you
was
go.
like, what?
She's
And they're like, boom, we're going right now to the courthouse, baby.
That would be funny.
Find out her name when we sign it on the paper.
There you go. I could do your wedding for you. I'm ordained, man. I could do it. If you get married, we're gonna do it like a live podcast.
No.
It's gonna be amazing.
If I get married.
So yeah, if you get married, I don't know what God's will is for your life.
Yeah. Well,
I need you to stay single so we can keep doing this podcast. Your wife's never gonna let you leave to come over and hang out at my house. So, anyways,
yeah.
dude, it's gonna be awesome, man. Your wife's gonna get a gem.
I wasn't even complaining about my wife.
I know. I know. I'm just saying. She's gonna be blessed.
I've always said this though.
What?
I don't know if I said this before on here. is that I know how, and especially now it doesn't help having a year's worth of hour plus recordings of me talking out here for everyone to listen to.
Yes.
So it's not really that hidden. If she knows, well, if I ever would tell her.
You're not proud of this?
No.
You're not proud of this? You're embarrassed of your own podcast?
But I was going to say, she's either going to be the most understanding,
Yes.
like where it would, I see her as, I'm just going to say, like, I'd come home and I'm like, did you know what the lizard people are doing today? And I just picture her like washing dishes or cooking dinner or something like, and just like, oh, that's nice. Tell me more. And she's just not listening to me at all.
Yeah.
But giving me that constant every like 3 minutes, like, that's really interesting. And then just letting me rant. And then at the end when I'm done, she's like, are you done? All right, cool. Let's not do this. And just totally understanding.
Yeah.
But just gives me the space to do that. Or she's going to be more insane than me. And it's going to be like schooling me on red.
She's like, Rosie, we need to start a podcast. Turner's not woke enough.
He's not woke enough. Yeah.
She'll take my place.
Yeah.
That'll be great. And I'll be like,
Why are you gay?
And I'll be like, I'm not gay. She's a woman.
he's a woman. You're
Smoking that sticky green stuff.
Never, baby.
never. I'm clean. All right, man.
All right. Anyways.
It's been a great episode.
Yes.
We
Hopefully
hope
got something out of it.
Yeah, I hope they're blessed.
Yeah.
So,
And just remember, all those single people out there.
all the single people.
I was going to say, I'm there with you. So
Oh.
don't, I'm not, we're not coming from a place of Turner's married.
That's
I'm not.
right. That's right.
So
He's
I'm with you guys.
He's with you.
We're in there.
Yeah.
We're going to do that.
And all of our listeners, pray for Rosie.
No.
that God will bring him his woke wife. Yes.
No.
A hot woke wife. That's what you need that loves Jesus more than anything.
I don't
Dude.
do. Okay.
Hey, dude, ask for God gives you the desires of your heart, man. You can ask for it.
You guys don't have to do that.
Be specific. Ask Jesus exactly for.
I like brunettes.
All right. That's a good start. Jesus loving brunette who's woke.
Yeah.
That's all. All right. You heard him, warriors. Pray for Rosie. Hey, you're going to have an army praying for you. It's going to be amazing. You're going to have like 5.
I already have an angel army praying for me.
You're going to have like 5 on your next Tinder thing. You have like 5 brunette Christians that are going to. No, I know. I'm just joking.
Tinder.
Yeah, I know. Or whatever. Anyways. Hey, we'll catch you next time. on all at War.
Bye. Oh, stay hydrated too. Yeah.
There you go. All right, bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the All Out War podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to know more, you can visit us on the web at alloutwar.us, or you can find us on Twitter at alloutwarcast. Hey, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.